Welcome to Hoystory On Air for November 10th, 2025. Got some interesting things to talk about tonight. Uh, again, hope you tell your friends about me and the website, and going to talk discuss some media issues here tonight. If there's one thing I know about, it's the media. I spent 15 years in newspapers. I know how the sausage is made. I know how the sausage can be tainted. Let's start off with an interesting article that hit over the weekend. Blaze Media reports former Capitol Police officer a forensic match for January 6th pipe bomber, sources say. A computer program that compared the bomb suspect's gait to that of Shawnee Kirchhoff produced a 94% match. Forensic analysis of former U.S. Capitol Police officer's gait is a 94 to 98% match to the unique stride of the long-sought January 6th pipe bomb suspect, according to a Blaze News investigation confirmed by several intelligence sources. People have been making a big deal about this. If you read the entire article, and that will be, available in the link dump beneath this video on YouTube, that's about all they've got, is this gait analysis stuff. Not sure how much trust I would put into that. I mean, I first heard of it in one of the Mission Impossible movies. They had to get around a gait analysis that otherwise would have captured one of the Mission Impossible Force agents. I'm not sure I would trust it this much. Certainly not enough that I'm going to publish a name and that's all I've got. And again, you read the article, I think that's about all they've got. I mean, they got some background on her. They got, here's video of her on January 6th, manning the ramparts at the Capitol and whatnot. This is really risky. I probably, if I'm the editor, I don't publish this. There's not enough there. This forensic match thing, it's like, we'll only report. You're naming this person's the pipe bomber. If this would hold up in a court of law, then maybe. But I don't think you convict her on a probability, 51% chance it's her, let alone beyond the reasonable doubt. And if she's not planning a lawsuit, she's making a mistake, because I think there's lawyers who'd be willing to go after Blaze Media, which is Glenn Beck's media company. I just don't think they've got it there. More bad journalism. From the Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness, and it's the Washington Post's fault because they're stupid. This is an opinion piece. I guess that's a bright side. It's opinion and not news. What's the best place to raise a family? We scored every county. Find where to raise the children based on your priorities. Now, the interesting thing is, you read this article, and it's very data driven. They've done a lot of mining various databases and whatnot. But it's not really you using this to rank what you think is the best county to raise your kids in. Go on. Here's the map. Now, this map does not consider affordability, which is why New York is bright red, highest. I mean, New York City's bright red. Manhattan's bright red. New Jersey's bright red. All of Virginia, Washington, D.C., good parts of Maryland. Florida, some of them pretty good. California, oh my gosh. Best counties for raising children. San Francisco is way up there at the top. Central Valley, where I live, not so good. Although that's because you're not, bringing in affordability. It's also talking about education quality. Education quality. I'm going to make this bigger, a little bigger for you guys. Education quality, safety. Safety. San Francisco, New York, safety. And state policies. State policies. That's why. What are state policies? What are the policies that promote raising of children in these counties? Do they give financial breaks? Do they give tax breaks for if you have a bunch of children? What exactly are the state policies? Well, if you scan down to the very bottom, you find out. State policies on personal liberties and parental support combines abortion access 60%. You want to raise a family? We'll have to kill a few kids to, make 60% is abortion access. Sexual orientation and gender identity is 30%. Does it promote the gays? Now, they can live their lives however they want. But I break this to you. If it's about raising families, they can't do it on their own. Because science and family leave support, that's something, okay, that's fair enough. But that's 10% of the number. Abortion, how close an abortion clinic is, weighs 6 times as much as family leave support. Seriously? Seriously. If you wonder where their priorities are, this tells you where their priorities are. It's all abortion all the time. I mean, okay, maybe these are the best counties for single young women who want to let their freak flag fly, or men for that matter. But this is the number this is the big deal for raising a family. Can't make the stuff up. Can't make the stuff up. It's absolutely stupid. Let's move on. The British Broadcasting Corporation's leaders have resigned. Now, the BBC is an interesting beast. It is roughly similar to our own National Public Radio, public broadcasting system. But unlike those, until recently, both of those got taxpayer money. In Great Britain, you have to pay a tax every year to support the BBC based on how many television sets you have. That is kind of crazy. BBC leaders have resigned after the broadcaster's editing of Trump's speech is called misleading. BBC Director General Tim Davie, he's the number one person at the BBC, and BBC News Chief Executive Deborah Turness announced Sunday they're resigning from their positions. Turness, I believe, worked for NBC News here in the United States for several years, so yay us. The Review found Panorama, that's one of their news shows, it's like 60 minutes, had used an edited clip of Mr. Trump speaking at his rally on January 6, 2021, the day a mob of his supporters would later attack the U.S. Capitol building. It appeared to show Mr. Trump as saying, quote, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." But the clip had been created by splicing together 2 points of his speech that had occurred almost an hour apart. This is not cutting out, it's not cutting out, my uhs and, the loud applause that each of my statements should make. Obviously, like Trump, you're not cutting that kind of dead air out. This is grabbing 2 comments that come almost an hour apart, putting them together to create this impression that doesn't hold water. There's a reason why Trump wasn't, nobody tried to get Trump over inciting a mob, because you look at the statements in the order in which he gave them, and it's clear you couldn't make that case. But that won't stop the BBC. It gets better. It gets better. So what did Davey and Turness say? In his statement, Mr. Davey acknowledged that the BBC was not perfect. No, yes, Sherlock. Duh. But said it must remain transparent and accountable. Well, it wasn't. Quote, while not being the only reason, the current debate around BBC News has understandably contributed to my decision, he wrote. Overall, the BBC is delivering well, but there have been some mistakes made, and as Director General, I have to take ultimate responsibility. Well, I'll give him that. At least, falling on your sword and walking out the door are taking responsibility. But you also let this go on, and this has been going on for ages. I do not doubt for a second. This is similar to what CBS News did with its Kamala Harris interview, where in the promo they cut it one way, and then in the 60 Minutes piece they cut it another way, and you wouldn't have known that those were all part. That it was the answer to the same question. And the defense that, all media organizations do this is not really a defense. You shouldn't do this. They were an hour apart. You do this in if I'm teaching young journalists in a journalism class, and there's a reason I'm not, you do this, you fail. There's been some whining that, Trump had Trump had threatened a lawsuit and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Trump does that. He's litigious. But he had a case. And it's not just, and here's where I earn my paycheck, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, anytime I defend Israel, that's supposed to give me between $7,000 and $14,000. I'm still waiting for that paycheck. For the first one, when I did ripping into the odious Nick Fuentes and the odious Tucker Carlson, that check has not arrived yet, but here I go trying for another check. BBC's Arabic outlet reportedly made 100 mistakes each year about the Gaza war. That's basically 2 a week. I did a lot of reporting for about my first 3.5 years or so in journalism. If I recall correctly, in 3.5 years, and the first 2 years, I was writing 2-3 stories a day. Had one correction run, and I protested it. And it was only because the editor was, the military term is ROAD, R-O-A-D, retired on active duty. The editor of the paper was just kind of putting her time in. I had a correction run over a quote that I had in my notebook. It was accurate. This city planning commissioner or whatnot had said it, but she was angry that she'd been quoted because it didn't make her look good. And so she had this little functionary had, really gone after the editor. I run this correction. It's like, how do you want it worded? And so the editor thought she was being clever. She put the suggested correction in quotes and put "she said" at the end. And if I had money, if I'd been, if I'd had an extra source of income at the time, I would have quit. I would have quit over it because it was BS. But one correction in 3.5 years. They're making 2 a week. What do these corrections look like? The dossier, this is the report which got Donald Trump ticked off and got these people fired. we'll jump down a little bit. In one instance, BBC Arabic described some Israeli hostages as being guarded by members of the Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas. Guarded. Protected from whom? Well, Hamas. Quote, you'd think having to issue so many corrections would raise red flags that there was a problem. But Tim Davie has failed to sort it out. Global News Director Jonathan Munro refuses to accept anything as wrong. Danny Cohen, a former director of BBC Television, told The Telegraph, quote, in fact, he said BBC Arabic's reporters are an unrivaled source of knowledge and editorial content for the wider BBC. This is deeply concerning and speaks volumes about the BBC's failings during the Israel-Hamas war. Yeah, you're running 2 corrections a week. You're saying, I'm not sure what you expect when the people they were hiring were terrorists themselves. A lot of these so-called journalists operating in Gaza who were funneling information to the BBC, to the New York Times, all these, foreign, because you send your own honky white reporter in there, they're going to get the Daniel Pearl treatment. They're going to get killed. They're going to get beheaded. They're going to, especially if they try and tell the truth. The outlet is also under fire, and this is a little bit further down in the story, that's why I put that line in there. The outlet is also under fire for platforming journalists who expressed anti-Semitic views, including one who called the perpetrator of a mass shooting in a synagogue a hero, who made 217 appearances in BBC Arabic. Another journalist who called Jews devils made over 500 appearances. I'm shocked that there's an anti-Semitism problem at the BBC, said no one ever. Here's another one. This is coming up here. This is a video from The Telegraph. I don't know why they put their watermark there, but take a listen.
Would you publicly accuse someone of a crime when you had no independent witnesses to it? Well, you almost certainly wouldn't, especially if you had prior knowledge of someone else being to blame. But that's exactly what the BBC has been accused of doing to Israel in this dossier. And the author of this dossier? Well, it's a former member of the broadcaster's own Editorial Standards Committee. This is the latest set of troubling allegations to hit the BBC as part of a Telegraph investigation into claims the broadcaster's coverage has systemic problems over impartiality. So let's get into it. In April and June 2024, the BBC published 2 stories about the discovery of mass graves at Al-Nasser and Al-Shifa hospitals in Gaza. According to the internal BBC dossier, the articles strongly implied that Israeli forces had buried bodies at both sites prior to withdrawing from the area. The articles also mentioned alleged evidence of war crimes, including bodies found with their hands tied and gunshot wounds to their heads. But the BBC's own Editorial Standards Committee was told that this narrative was wrong. The memo says that the most likely explanation is that the mass graves were dug by Palestinians themselves and the people buried there had died or been killed prior to the arrival of the Israeli ground forces. So, the BBC made a mistake. Well, perhaps. But the committee argues that the broadcaster knew that Palestinians were burying their dead at these sites before the Israeli raids. Several months earlier, the BBC itself reported on Palestinians digging mass graves, and geolocation clearly places the 2 burial sites in roughly the same area. Now, whatever your personal views may be on the actions of Israel in Gaza, implying a country committed war crimes when there is evidence to the contrary has serious ramifications, not least because it could erode the credibility of genuine war crime claims at a later date. How can we expect anyone to develop an informed or nuanced opinion when the BBC is only presenting them with some of the facts? That is perhaps the most damning takeaway of all.
Some of the facts, except it was making stuff up. It's not even some of dead bodies were found, but we told you have to go back 6 months in our coverage to find out that we had reported the Palestinians were doing that. shocked, not shocked. This is my shocked face. The BBC is notoriously anti-Semitic. Notoriously. We shouldn't be surprised. What's a little surprising is that it's getting coverage now. It's not a gold standard. We'll see if it improves after this, but I'm not sure who the Barry Weiss type, who's taking over CBS News, who's got that kind of care and concern about credibility that they can find. Those sorts of people who would be even marginally acceptable to the left. And, I mentioned Barry Weiss. She is not a conservative. She is center left, but she cares about good journalism and trying to play things down the middle. There are very few journalists nowadays that care or try about that. This next story. Oh, this is great. I mean, it's. I don't know if you'd followed this. This happened down in an LA gym. Woman threw a fit and she has every right to, because a dude's in the women's locker room, but the dude says he's a lady. Dude's a lady. Yeah. Okay. Leave Aerosmith out of this. This is from the New York Post. I just want to, and this is about the dude who was in the women's locker room. He is a he, not a she, this is the butchery of the English language and how it's designed and how it makes, my own pronouns, choosing your own pronouns, makes a hash of giving readers the news they need and accurately reporting what's happening. So, trans person accused of exposing self in women's locker room was convicted of brutally beating ex-wife before taking her name. Well, that's nice of him. The transgender person caught up in a viral Los Angeles gym bathroom row had been convicted of assaulting their wife. Their wife? How many people were married to the wife? I joked with my sister-in-law because she's one of these TERFs. She's a trans-excluding radical feminist. Yeah, my in-law. Or my sister-in-law. We joke about this their thing. I'm fine with people saying their pronouns are they, their, if they have a mouse in their pocket. They can use the plural pronouns if there's more than one of them. So, convicted of assaulting their wife while living in Ohio as a man before taking her first name as their own. Alexis Black ran afoul of women at a gym in Beverly Hills, including singer-songwriter Tish Hyman, who accused them, how many were there, of exposing themselves and harassing her in the locker room. Black, formerly Grant Freeman, pleaded guilty in 2022 to savagely beating their wife, Alexis Freeman, causing a compound fractured jaw, among other serious injuries. You read down a little further, apparently he got a year in jail with time served. So not nearly long enough. Compound fracture, what's that mean? That means it broke skin. The bone broke skin. And now he's going by his ex-wife's name. What a classy dude. Also on the transgender beat, we have this news from the International Olympic Committee. The IOC is to ban transgender women from all female Olympic events, report. Not really. It's again, these are the games you have to play. The International Olympic Committee is reportedly set to ban transgender women from competing in all female categories. The change is set to be officially announced early next year, the Times reported on Monday, citing sources. The decision it's not banning transgender women from female Olympic events. It's banning men. Let's stop playing this game. It's saying men have to compete against men and women have to compete against women. This is not difficult. The decision to overhaul the current policy was made after the sporting committee carried out a science-based review of a biologically born male's physical advantages, the sources added. The most difficult thing to see is what's right before your eyes. Of course, you've got a few on the fringes who claim, oh, this is all just socially constructed, that there is no physical difference between men and women. Bolshevik storytelling. And anyone who has ever watched or played sports comes to quickly realize. I've gone through online, repeatedly about, the U.S., the Women's World Cup team, the best women's team in the world, U.S. Women's World Cup team, lost to a bunch of 13 and 14-year-old boys in a scrimmage. Why? Puberty. It's unfortunate that this did not happen sooner. Let's stop playing these games. On to the shutdown. The government shutdown. We have, they came to a deal apparently Sunday night. Government's been shut down 40 days and change, 41 by now. And it looks like they're going to open it back up. Let's be clear here who had it closed. And let's go to our good old friend, Senator Dick Durbin, the majority whip from Illinois, the Democrat who has been in the Senate too long, but is not running for re-election, which explains why he's one of these little blue dots voting yes. To explain who is responsible exactly for this shutdown and who is mad that it's opening back up.
After lengthy negotiations, an agreement was reached with the Republican Senate leader, John Thune. We will agree to open the government until January 30th, 2026. During that time, we will pass 3 bipartisan appropriation bills that will fully fund SNAP, WIC, and all the veterans programs, and finish our work on the remaining spending bills for this fiscal year. The agreement would also reverse the Trump administration's mass firings during the shutdown and prevent future ones through January 30th. We credit Senator Kaine of Virginia for this provision. Leader Thune has also promised the Democrats an opportunity before mid-December to present a Democratic bill on the floor with proposals to change the law and protect American families from dramatic health care premium increases. It is my fervent hope that this ends up being a bipartisan effort. It would be such an achievement of the Senate to finally return to that status. I've served in the Senate for 29 years, and I've never seen that kind of offer from a Senate majority. During the historic roll call last night, I walked across the aisle and met with Senator John Thune, the Republican leader. I told him that I was counting on him to keep his word on this agreement. He assured me he would. The fate of this effort depends on both the Senate and the House of Representatives. After a 7-week absence, the Speaker Johnson needs to call his members back and join us in the hard work that lies ahead. Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Well, there you go. This was not about anything other than punishing Trump. He said it, not me. I didn't make him say it. They wanted the government to stay shut down because they hate Trump. Interesting strategy. Might have hurt Democrats last Tuesday if the media had beaten the drum on it, like they did every time the roles were reversed, and it was Republicans not voting to reopen the government until they got some sort of concession. Yeah, it's let's be clear who's to blame on this. Yeah. Over at National Review, Dan McLaughlin writes, "Now can we stop pretending that it was Republicans who shut down the government? It would be nice. It would be nice." He writes, "If this Trump shutdown was so terrible, this should be a cause for a popular celebration, no? But as Jack Blanchard and Dasha Burns of Politico Playbook put it, the Democratic base is seething. Liberal social media is on fire this morning with activists, pressure groups, and wannabe Democratic senators and presidents falling over one another to condemn the deal in ever louder terms. The panelists on MSNBC were banging the drum against it last night, some calling for Schumer to face the heat. Instantly, it feels like a purity test. Nobody hoping to get anywhere in Democratic circles right now is permitted to be anything other than outraged. Pathetic," said the current top potential 2028 candidate, California Governor Gavin Newsom. Quote, "Senator Schumer is no longer effective and should be replaced," said Rep. Ro Khanna, who may fancy himself for higher office. Rising stars and Senate hopefuls like Mallory McMorrow, James Telrico, and Graham Plattner, Totenkopf tattoo fame, all condemned the deal. McLaughlin returns. I guess it's not the Trump shutdown anymore. Schumer put out a video blasting the deal. Jeffries vowed to try and keep the shutdown going. Quote, "For 7 weeks, Democrats in the House and Senate have waged a valiant fight. We will fight the GOP bill in the House of Representatives." House Progressive Leader Pramila Jayapal called to hold the line. I'm a no on anything that doesn't extend ACA subsidies. And again, if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go, flip back on the YouTube channel, get the Obamacare doesn't work video, watch it. Because that's what this is all about. This is about COVID-era subsidies that were designed, that were paying down Obamacare costs for people making 400% of the poverty line. Why? Why are people making 400% of the poverty line getting these huge subsidies? Well, because that's the only way we can maintain the fiction that Obamacare worked, is if we can keep on shoveling money at it. It was supposed to bring down costs. It has not. It has not done that even close. No, and everyone who has to buy or, gets, if you get your health care coverage through your employer or if you buy it on the Obamacare market, that hasn't worked. Costs keep going up. And it's just an absolute joke. DNC Vice Chair Malcolm Kenyatta, with a blithe disregard toward his own war room messaging, declared, "Any deal that ends with the Dems just getting a pinky promise in return is a mistake." New Jersey-elect Governor Mickey Sherrill described it as caving. Sherrod Brown, running to return to the Senate, called it a bad deal. Durbin was right. Even the promise of "we'll vote on your bill," not guaranteeing it'll pass, because it won't, And if it does, then Republicans are going to have serious issues with their base. Maybe they don't care, but that's more than Democrats would give to Republicans when Chuck Schumer was majority leader. Yeah. So now we're going to go back. We're going to pay all these employees, including the ones who have been sitting at home for the past month plus, as if they were working. That's never a good deal. It'd be nice if we required them to work some overtime to make it up, because, again, they weren't working. But that's the way this has always kind of operated. Maybe we should come up with a method so we don't have these shutdown fights and we always let the government run. I'm open to arguments on that, but they got a promise that they'd get a vote on their bill. They had that before the government ever shut down. That's absolutely no skin off the Republicans' backs. Seriously. Because, again, Obamacare was passed with no Republican votes. These subsidies that were passed during COVID and set to expire at the end of this year, all Democrat votes. Democrats own this, but the media won't hold them to that. That's all I've got. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. Tell your friends about it. Tell your enemies about it. Thanks for being part of Hoystory Online on air. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.